Yo, with the college football season being about a little over a month away, I have college football on the brain right now. Like, totally and completely, I'm ready. So, that got me thinking today. I'm not just ready for my team season, I'm ready for college football in general. That means I'm looking forward to Florida State, LSU. I'm looking forward to TCU, Colorado, Oregon, USC, Oregon State. Of course, the battle for the Big Ten between Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. Everything college football, I'm ready for it. If you're like me, I'll turn as many games as I can get on my screen at one time during the season, and I'll watch from noon to the time the Pac-12 goes off. And speaking of the Pac-12, that will be the topic of this video. So before I get into the meat of this video, there are a few different types of college football fans. There's many different types, but the main archetypes, if I could speak, that you'll see is the homer, the guy that loves his team, that only watches their team, every other game, every other storyline. They could care less. They couldn't care less. But that's one type of fan. That's a huge portion of the fan base as well. People who only watch their team. Then you have people who are fans of a team that like buy a shirt every now and then. Don't even watch the games. Couldn't tell you their starting quarterback, That's a whole nother conversation of that group of people. And then you have fans of a conference. You see that mostly in the SEC. Fans who will pull for an SEC team no matter what, which is really not how I am. If one of my team's rivals is playing another out of conference game, I would love for my rival team to lose. That's just me. I will never pull for a rival. Speaking of Florida State, LSU, look at that. Can't wait for that game this year. And then you have your college football fans in general. You have people who will watch all the big games. You might have a rivalry game that somebody's into. They might be into the Oregon State game, Alabama, Auburn, Oklahoma, Texas, all that stuff. Huge into rivalries. They just love the different matchups. They just love college football in general, which is where I would place myself. I love college football in general. If a game's on, I'll watch it. I have a favorite team. I'll watch every second of every game that my team's playing. But also, if there's other big matchups in that time slot, I'm pulling up the laptop. I'm pulling up another screen. I'm having as many games playing as I can. And this video isn't geared towards those types of fans, college football fans in general. Because college football fans know what the Pac-12 will bring this year. You don't have to spend too long explaining to a college football fan how much fun the Pac-12 will be this year. The people who won't hear what you have to say about the Pac-12 are your fans, your homers, and your conference fans. So for example, there's a guy that I work with. He is a fan of his team. He also pulls for the SEC. I can't imagine him watching a single Pac-12 game. And he would pretty much tell you that. If it's not SEC, he's not watching it, which is a horrible way to go about this sport. But anyways, if you ever need a list of a few key points for why the Pac-12 is going to be so much fun this year, I've jotted a few down. Let's go over them. The main point, quarterbacks. You had a quarterback from the Pac-12 win the Heisman last year, which is Caleb Williams, and he's coming back this year. So returning Heisman quarterback. You have two more, in my opinion, Heisman caliber quarterbacks, proven Heisman caliber quarterbacks in Bo Nix at Oregon. And yes, Bo Nix, for a majority of last season, was in the Heisman running. You can say all you want to about how he played at Auburn. I don't care. He was a Heisman caliber quarterback for a majority of last season, and he's returning. And Michael Penix Jr. at Washington. Those three quarterbacks are Heisman caliber quarterbacks, and one of them has already won the Heisman. But then that doesn't even take into account DJU at Oregon State by transfer of Clemson. Is his situation where it was less than desirable at offensive coordinator when he was at Clemson? Is he as hyped up as his scouting grade was when he was a recruit? Who knows? It's a change of scenery for a guy with that much talent, so we'll see what that does for him. Also, Cam Rising is still at Utah somehow. He's only won the Pac-12 back-to-back years, and he's back again. Cam Rising he's a solid quarterback, dude. He's one of those guys, similar to Max Duggan last year. He's one of those quarterbacks you probably wouldn't pick over a guy with all the talent in the world, but he's a dude that will put his nose down and he will grind out a game. And you would want the ball in his hands in the last minute of a game. I mean, he's just a baller, dude. So you got those quarterbacks out there. And then, let's see. So that's a big point. Quarterback play, there's not another conference in America right now that has better quarterback play as a conference than the Pac-12. And that's just facts. So let's go look at coaching staffs. So let's see here. So we got Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State in year one. And if you're unfamiliar with who that is, he was Bo Nix's offensive coordinator at Auburn for a few years. They both moved to Oregon at the same time. So Kenny Dillingham was Bo Nix's offensive coordinator last year at Oregon. There's a great scene where he is flipping his lid in the box, dude. He is going crazy. But he is now at Arizona State, so this will be his year one there. That'll be something interesting to keep an eye on. Dan Lanning at Oregon, year two. Dan Lanning, elite defensive mind. He's back for year two. Oregon is stacking in the trenches and at linebacker. There will be something to keep an eye on for sure. Lincoln Riley at USC. I mean, come on. The dude pumps out Heismans like it's his damn day job. You know what I mean? If you're a quarterback, I would never blame a quarterback for going to USC with Lincoln Riley. I would never blame a wide receiver going to Ohio State. I would never blame a running back for going to Georgia or Penn State or Michigan. You know what I mean? Quarterback, you don't even have to worry about quarterback with Lincoln Riley. So you got Lincoln Riley in year two. Lincoln Riley in year one almost went to the playoffs if they didn't drop that game, the Pac-12 championship game to Utah. So year two, something to keep an eye on there. Kyle Whittingham. I wrote this down. I had to look this up. I couldn't believe it. Kyle Whittingham is on his 19th year at Utah. 19. That's insane. And he's got his quarterback, Cam Rising, with him. That pair, it seems like they've been together for 8 years. I don't know. This has got to be Cam Rising's last year. Maybe not. Who knows? And then to top it all off, the main storyline, if you don't care about the Pac-12 at all, you couldn't even name half the teams in the conference. Those people will still tune in for this one guy. And you already know who I'm about to say. Deion Sanders at Colorado. I mean, do I even have to explain that? That is going to be must-see TV. They play week 1 on the road at TCU. Me personally, I already know TCU is going to splatter them, but still, it's going to be so much fun to watch. And you'll get to gauge how the transfer model that he's using will translate in year 1. Because they got, 73 new scholarship players, something crazy like that. That's going to be nuts. So, recapping the coaches. Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State. Dan Lanning at Oregon. Lincoln Riley, USC. Kyle Whittingham at Utah. And then Deion Sanders at Colorado. Those 5 coaches, keep an eye on all 5 of those. Some other big storylines, of course, USC, UCLA's last year in the Pac-12. They're going to the Big Ten next year. This is their last season in the Pac-12. That's nuts. Can USC finally win the conference after years and years? Can they win it on their last go-round? Will UCLA actually challenge for the Pac-12? I don't know. We'll see. Another point, I've already brushed on it. DJ Uiagalelei at Oregon State. What are we going to see out of him? Is he going to be a new, refreshed quarterback ready to go that just had a philosophy or style or system issue at Clemson? I don't know. The dude's got all the potential in the world. He just hasn't lived up to it yet. Oregon State could be the place to do it. Also, Washington, dude. Washington has hype this year. Washington is projected to go, their win total is at 9.5. So they're looking at potentially a 10-win-ish season. That's where they're being projected right now. 9.5, between 9 and 10 games. And Utah. Can Utah actually three-peat the conference? That would be nuts. When you have Oregon, USC, Washington, UCLA, Oregon State, all of those teams out there, and little old Utah has won back-to-back already. Can they go for 3? Utah's one of those teams, they're scrappy as hell, and they never have any hype, and they always over-deliver. So, but if you overhype them, I don't know. They might fall. I don't know. When they have attention on them, we'll see. Also, a huge point that everyone should be aware of: the Pac-12 no longer has divisions. They no longer have a North and a South division. Now it's just the best 2 teams duke it out in the championship game. Cannot wait. So let's look at projected win totals for each team in the conference. Do you want to take a guess at how many teams in the Pac-12 have a projected win total of 8.5 or more? You want to take a guess? Projected win totals, 8.5 games or more. They have 6 teams with win totals, projected win totals of 8.5 games or more. 6 teams. That is the most in the country. That is more teams projected at 8.5 wins or more than the SEC or the Big Ten or the Big 12 or the ACC. 6 teams. Those 6 teams are Oregon. Let's get our notes over here. Oregon State. Oregon's at 9.5. Oregon State 8.5. UCLA 8.5. USC 10 games. They're projected to win 10 games. This is all according to CBS. Utah 8.5 games. And then Washington is sitting at 9.5. So there's some real hype around these teams. 6 teams with projected win totals over 8.5. The SEC has 5. The Big 10 has 4. The Big 12 has only 2. And the ACC has 3. So there you go. They have double the amount as the ACC. There is some real hardcore football going on the West Coast. And if you don't tune in because you think they're soft out there, or you think it's not competitive, or you think, I don't know, it's too late. They show the games too late. You're missing out on some real competitive football. College football played on the highest level. You got dudes that's going to be in the NFL in the next year or so, like big time players. Caleb Williams is going to go number 1 overall in the draft. And I can confidently say that right now. But don't miss out on good football. Just trust me, it's going to be fun. It's going to be nuts over there. I don't have a clue who's going to win that conference. I think on my last video a few months ago, I think I picked Utah. That was more so just because I never picked Utah to win the Pac-12. In both the last 2 years, they burned me. So I told myself, as long as they have Cam Rising and Kyle Whittingham there. I'm not picking against him, so I'll have to be proven wrong. So we'll see, man. But yeah, don't miss out on some good football. Please don't miss out. They're the real deal. But that's all I want to say. Yeah, later.